I thought that it was just great. Just great. Give me more. Give me more. Hello, everyone. Welcome to No Drama, Just Movies, and we are back with another movie review. Hit that subscribe button to stay tuned with all the content we produce each and every week, including our new rapid reviews and nano news on our channel. My name is Cameron. We'll make a ballerina out of you yet, Kelly Smith, and I'm joined by my esteemed colleague here.
I'm Phil, the mixed race one, Corwin.
Oh, that's right. If you haven't guessed it by now, based on that, we are here to review, of course, from the world of John Wick, that is Ballerina. So this is the first spin-off entirely, unless there's anything else I'm missing, but this is the first major spin-off of the John Wick universe, and the first live-action one. And when I saw the trailers, I was intrigued. I went in there with decent expectations because it's a John Wick movie, or the DNA of John Wick, so I'm expecting at least a certain standard of action and fun, and I'm pleased to say I got it. Not only did I get it, but it exceeded my expectations.
Ooh.
I had a wonderful time, and I have never described an experience I've had with a movie as wonderful, but it was great. As a lover of John Wick, as a lover of that movie franchise, I love this. Eve, thank you for being such a great addition. Of course, Anna de Armas. Those are my initial thoughts. We will go into it more because it does have some problems, but I loved my time. I loved watching it. I really enjoyed it. This was such a treat. What say you?
I'm the opposite. I really didn't enjoy it as much. There were parts that I absolutely hated, parts that I just, that were just boring for me. I'm like, okay. So I drifted off maybe a little bit sometimes. Some parts, I have to admit, I actually did really like, and some parts I actually loved. So it was very much an up and down mixed bag for me, I think, with a lot of more negative things.
Yeah. And I mean, look, I think if you are not a fan of the John Wick movies, or if especially you haven't seen the John Wick movies, I don't know how this experience would be like for you, because I think that if you haven't experienced the John Wick movies, or if you don't like the John Wick movies particularly, I think that this is a movie where it doesn't necessarily present anything new in regards to plot, anything new in regards to swerves or interesting character dynamics. But I think what it does bring is everything John Wick, but in this kind of with a new protagonist and a new kind of a little bit of a new background, a new setting. And that's what I loved about it. Like, I'm a big fan of the John Wick universe. And so seeing how, the character of Eve is dropped in there, and seeing how, she's found by Winston. And then obviously this is a spoiler review, but she's found by Winston. And then obviously she's brought to the Roma. And, they train her. And then, we have the little coincide there bit with John Wick. And then we also then bring in, the cult. I think their name was the Organization or something. But they all seem to be another criminal organization, presumably also under the high table, and they seem to have a relationship with Roma. Like, that kind of stuff is cool. It was nice to be back to the Continental. All the John Wicky kind of stuff is awesome, and I think the best thing that this brings, that it had to for it to be a John Wick movie, is the action. But it's not just the action. When I say action, I think you know what I mean by this. We're not just saying, that it just needed guns and her beating up bad guys. It's the choreography, it's the set pieces, yes. It's the way that you have like one continuous sequence. It's the new creative ways they come up with kills and fighting, and that really pumped my adrenaline. And there was some cool moments, like, when, for example, she goes to visit Frank, to get some new weapons, and she's killing a whole lot of them. And, at one point she puts a grenade in a guy's mouth and she ties his neck and pulls him down and he explodes. Or them using the flamethrowers, how aesthetically cool that looked. And of course, we haven't even gotten to the point of, the cameo of the guy himself, John Wick, entering the movie. And I thought that it was just great. Just great. Give me more. Give me more. What did you not like about it, however?
So going back to the fights, I guess I'll jump on that. Like I really enjoyed, like you said, some of these more inventive kind of fights,
Yeah.
like the grenade fight where she just has grenades and she just lobs them, she stuffs them in people's mouths. She just it's just a fun little like extra because I haven't seen that yet. I've seen people throw grenades, but that's pretty much it. But
Mhm.
just like having just grenades to fight with. Interesting idea. Flamethrowers, yeah, that worked. But also the ice skates at the end, where she like has them on this on the
Oh yeah,
shoestring, and she's just throwing around,
yeah.
like using them as something weapons.
Mm.
That was a fun fight, right? Little things like that. But speaking of fights, I don't think they meant anything. Like I didn't see why these people were fighting other than, oh, it's time for a fight scene right now. You mentioned the guy Frank, where she goes to buy weapons, and it was such a weird scene for me because she goes in, she goes to buy weapons, and then suddenly, boom, people come in and shooting, shooting, shooting. Shit happens, and I'm like, okay, we're already getting out of this scene, I guess. And then they defeat the guys, and then it's back to so now I'm going to tell you everything I know about this cult thing. It's like we didn't need that fight scene for that to happen. He could have just, she goes in, he tells her what he knows about these people. She gets some weapons. Off we go to actually go after these people. Right? It didn't need them coming in and all that blah 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 just to go back basically to the beginning of that scene again. And it's stuff like that. It just didn't feel motivated, other than by the script.
They definitely, I think, in some ways could have toyed around more with, because I bought why she wanted to do what she wanted to do. She wants to kill the Chancellor and kill the cult because they murdered her father. I
Yeah.
think that's a very and murdered her father in front of her, should I say? And I think
But
that's a
even,
very
even that takes ages for her to start that, because we get all her
which part?
training in a Ruska Roma, and then eventually she goes, oh yeah, I might as well go after the people who murdered my, because
But I don't. I wouldn't
she
say that
takes
she
all these other
eventually.
things first.
But I wouldn't say that she eventually does go, oh, yeah, I might as well do this. Like, from the moment we see her in the Roscoe Roma, doing the ballerina training, like, it's clear from the jump that she's doing this. And she does explain this as she's doing the training, that she wants to be ready. She wants to pass the training so she can go and get this done.
But
Like,
she
that
never
is
says
something.
what she's going to be ready for, right? She says, I'm ready, I'm ready, I'm ready. But is that just to have jobs and like earn her money now with killing people, which she does go into? Or is that actually, because she never says, when am I going to go after these people? What are we going to do with those people who murdered my father?
Hmm.
What do I need to do? What do you know about them? Like, she never tries to actually, vengeance, go for the
I
vengeance
mean,
part.
for me, that was self-explanatory. Like, I feel like it's very clear to me that she's training and she wants to go and avenge her father's death. Like, I
I
think
need
that's
more than that. I need more like,
but I think that that's very clear. And she does go to, I forgot the lady who leads the Roscaroma,
hmm,
but she goes to her in regards to wanting to get the intel on the cult. And the lady refuses. And obviously, she says, that if you don't go and disobey me and go and do this because there's going to be consequences. And she does so anyway. And so I think for me, however, why I think that they could have played with a little bit more is that you have that cool scene towards the beginning. And this is another example of that, towards the beginning of the movie, where I think it harkens back to either John Wick 4 or John Wick 3 or John Wick 4. I think it might have been 3,
I
or
think
it could
this
even
is
be 2.
between 3 and 4, right?
Yeah,
This is like
when
after
basically,
it happens,
we see
right?
that scene, I think in 3, I believe, where when John Wick goes back to the Roscaroma and gets rebranded, so that he can use their help in his
Rebranded
mission.
from
You know,
HBO Max to just Max.
Exactly, exactly. And in that moment they remix that scene really nicely where obviously Eve sees him and she asks him, she says, how can I get out of here? How can I move
Hmm.
on? But that's a very interesting scene because I feel like they both mean two different things. When she's saying that, she's more so saying, at least how it came across to me, is that I'm ready to move on from here. I want to complete my training and go and avenge my father's death. Whereas John, at that point in his career, and at that moment in the movie, he's looking at it more so as I'm trying to give you tips on how to escape this life completely. Because
Mm.
obviously that's where we find John in John Wick 1, when, he has escaped the life. He made it out, but then he gets back in. And then, there's a whole fight from 1 to 4 so he can get back out. And I think that was an interesting thing that maybe they could have played around with more, this idea of what this life entails. And I think there was at times when they played with that, like when Eve, for example, does assassinate the Chancellor, in his final speech, he does kind of give tidbits into that in terms of, that this won't, I'm paraphrasing, but the idea of like, this won't end, that,
Mm.
fate brought you here, you're a killer, and killing me is not going to change this for you. Once you're in this game, you don't get out unless you're dead. And I wish maybe they played around with that or explored that a little bit more, because that was interesting. Obviously, we had the sister being introduced, and I don't know why they really did that. It seemed like a huge waste of time. It didn't really do anything at all, and it meant nothing. And so I'm not too sure why they did that. But one thing I wish they also did play around with a bit more is, and I think this is one of the things about the John Wick universe that they do have. It does have a problem doing this, but I guess
Mhm.
this is where spin-offs maybe come in.
Okay.
Is the exploration into some of these different factions. You have all these criminal organizations that are within the high table. Roscoe Roma being one of them, this cult, the organization being another. But you never really get like a proper exploration into what this is. Like the cult one was giving me such Last of Us vibes, like to at least
Oh,
in at least in words, in terms of
okay.
how they were initially described. Like this idea of, once you're in the family, your kids are our kids, and if you try and escape or get out, we're gonna come and kill you, and that you never
It's just
escape
a
this.
normal cult,
Um,
isn't it? Like,
yeah, but I wish that they had gone into that more, like the origins, how this, like, how it works. Which is a shame, but I felt that's the same with Roscoe Roma. They never really went into that much either. Like you still just get the impression that this is just a criminal organization where she takes in girls and guys, but predominantly girls, trains them in ballet, also training them to be assassins, and sends them on their way or sends them on their mission. And yeah, I wish that they went into that a little bit more.
yeah, maybe they should have done that instead of the revenge plot because we've had the revenge thing before.
Yeah.
Had it a couple of times with other franchises and films as well. So yeah. I want to jump on like the because you mentioned the sister as well. Like one part I absolutely hated too was the lack of like proper relationships for her. Like you've heard, they built up this. Was it Daniel? Was that his name? Norman Reedus's character, Mr. Pine.
Yeah.
So they set up him that it's like that they actually turn out to be on the same side, sort of. And then he's got a daughter, and like, which I liked because like that moment, because she's there to maybe kill him, maybe like prepared to kill him, but then she sees her daughter and she's like, nope, I'm not going to do that. But they set up these two people. Now the daughter's getting kidnapped, and like I was thinking, okay, is the ballerina is she Eve going to like, go after trying to save the daughter because she promised Mr. Pine there to protect the daughter or something? No, she's not. She doesn't give a shit about the daughter. And then they give her the sister, and it's literally 2 seconds later or like a minute later, the sister dies. And so it's like you said, that's like, what was that? What are we doing? Why all these like relations? You could have cut that out. It means absolutely nothing.
Mhm. Yeah, I do agree because I think with the kid part with Pine's daughter, can't remember what daughter was called, but I think they were setting it up as if Eve did want to save her, but they didn't go into it that much. Like for example, the Chancellor does say when she's coming, he's like, she's coming. I think Ella, was that the name of the kid? I think maybe
Ella, I
Ella.
think, yeah.
But he says, she's coming to kill me and take Ella. But yeah, they just don't really go into that. But that being said, at the beginning of this review, I did say, that it was a welcome addition. I said that I was very, very much so welcoming of Eve as a character. I gotta give props to Anna de Armas. Like, I think
Mhm.
that she did do a good job in this role. I think she held her own. She was convincing. She had some moments where I really did enjoy her performance. And I really do welcome the character. I think she is a really welcome addition. And props to her because I think she did do a good job. But that being said, for as good as she is, and maybe one day she'll even be the new face of this franchise. It's unlikely based on the box office right now, but she's no John Wick, and you know what, right? Like, do you know what this reminds me of in a way? Like when you know, maybe this isn't the best comparison, but I'm going to use it
Okay.
anyway. But when a movie takes a character in a spin-off or in a different movie and they use that character as a cameo, but they use them so well, or they use them as a supporting run, they use them so well. Like, for example, I always remember like how Marvel, how great they were at using Hulk as a supporting character, and it felt like such this cool moment. But John Wick, I think, is used very well in this movie. You know, I didn't expect a lot. I really didn't. And I think that I got more than I even expected. Like,
Mm.
I think, you know, when the head of Rome obviously makes the call to the Chancellor, or they're having the call, and she says, "Look, I'm going to send someone in," you immediately know, okay, I know who they're sending in. And obviously, if you watch the trailers, you know.
Yeah, it's in
And
the trailers.
yeah, you know. But when they're playing that theme, and you see John Wick coming off the train in the
Mm.
snow, and the lighting is all dark, and it's just it's so cool. And obviously, when he does turn up, I love his interaction with Eve. And he, I think, was really well used as well. And obviously, we know John Wick 5 is coming. And so, you know, we talked about this after the movie, you know, as in regards to when that movie will be set, if it's going to be a thing of, you know, he actually did fake his death in John Wick Chapter 4, or if John Wick Chapter 5 will take place potentially maybe even between just after the events of Ballerina, maybe. And that would be cool. I think I'm more than willing to have another four more John Wick movies that are prequels. I personally am more than willing. But, and this goes to my final point,
Mhm.
which is also my critique, or one of my critiques. I just said that I'm more than happy to see multiple John Wick movies. And part of the things that I do love about John Wick movies is him going on a killing spree, or Eve going on a killing spree in these creative and cool and fun ways. But you have to be careful not to repeat the formula every time. I feel like you got away with it in Ballerina, but specifically at the end of Ballerina, Eve, you know, obviously gets the message. She's been excommunicated, and she's now a contract that's been given across all criminal organizations under the high table. So now she's essentially wanted. And what obviously we don't know if we're going to get a Ballerina sequel. It doesn't seem likely, but whether we do or don't, or whether she does appear in the John Wick Chapter 5, I don't think it's wise to now see another whole movie where the main character is just has the bounty on their head, and they're running away from everybody and trying to kill everyone. I think we can't do that, because I think we could benefit from seeing some different dynamics or stories. And same way, like, for example, you know, the whole Donnie Yen Kane spin-off they're obviously planning. You look at that and think that you'd imagine, based off obviously the events of John Wick Chapter 4, that would have a bit more of a personal and unique story to it. And I hope that they can follow through with that. I'm all for more John Wick, but continue to keep it fresh. And yeah, that's the final point from me. Any final things you want to add on there?
Just because you mentioned that as well, like the in the theater or the ballet, when she watches the ballet and the phone, she gets the message, and then you see other people in the audience getting the message as well. I did love that. I love that about the world of John Wick, that we have dotted around these normal people. Like, here's an assassin, and then there's this random guy there is an assassin as well, like in
Mm,
the world. So you never know who's actually like part of that world. And so, like, it makes for an interesting, oh well, it already made for an interesting story with John when they did it with John Wick, and when he had to like fight
yeah,
against these people. But yeah, like you said, I don't need to see that again,
yeah,
especially since I didn't feel like they did a lot of different things in this case with the character, um, except maybe making a female. Yeah, I could be done with the ballerina. I could be done here. Even with John Wick, I've seen all the John Wicks. I'm all right. I'd take a spin-off, maybe like from somebody else's angle. Maybe John Wick and the ballerina could do a cameo or something like that. But like, show us, yeah, show me the cult, show me the Roscoe Roma. Um, Although they kind of did this here, but you know, tell other stories, because that might be a little bit less of a retread.
Yeah, that's true, and I think different mediums as well. Like obviously, we know about the animated John Wick movie.
Hmm.
Stuff like that sounds really cool, and maybe different and what's needed. So yeah, no, I do agree. I think we do continue to want to continue to see different stories within this universe. But of course, it is now IC review time. It's time for us to give our IC reviews for John Wick. Well, the ballerina, excuse me, from the world of John Wick. I'll go first with this one because I guess it makes sense. I am gonna give this a solid 8.5 ICs out of 10. I, okay, yeah. No, I was gonna say 8. I'll go with 8.5. I loved my time in the cinema watching this movie. It gave me everything I wanted as a John Wick fan, and I was more than satisfied. 8.5 ICs out of 10 for the ballerina.
Actually, that makes sense because you turned that eight around, and it because it felt like it was going on for an infinity. Um, I will give it a 4 out of 10. I will give it no
Oh,
five. This was a rotten little icy for me. Someone bled into it, and it's now filled with blood. I did not like it. Again, it's not that I hated all of it. It's that the parts that I liked and the parts that I really enjoyed were ruined by other like problems. Do you know what I mean?
yeah.
Like I wanted to like this. I love the fight scenes. I'd like just give me a reason, give me a character to root for, like to get invested in, which I don't think it did. So everything that was good was kind of soured like my icy. So 4 out of 10.
Damn. So 4 ICs out of 10 for you and 8.5 ICs out of 10 for me. So that will do it for our review of Ballerina from the world of John Wick. Once again, we are No Drama, Just Movies. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel, like, comment, share, drop down in the comment section below. Let us know your thoughts on Ballerina, what you thought of this movie, and what you think for the future of the John Wick franchise. Of course, I mentioned at the beginning of this review, we have two new series, should we say, on our YouTube channel here. We have rapid reviews where Phil is delving into all kinds of movies, from back in the day to present, and of course, movies that will be coming up in the future where he's giving his own mini short rapid reviews. He's done an entire collection of the Karate Kid franchise that seems like a lot of you were fans of. So please continue to watch that. And of course, we also have Nano News where I'll be coming with a few different videos here and there, talking about some big news topics and obviously delving into what that potentially means. The last one being the Harry Potter casting. So please check those out, both of those videos and series. Once again, we are No Drama, Just Movies. My name is Cameron. We'll make a ballerina out of you yet, Kelly Smith. And I'm joined by my esteemed colleague here.
I'm Phil, the mixed race swan. Yes, Cohen.
That makes me laugh so much. Well, that's it. Once again, thank you very much for checking out our review today, guys. We are No Drama, Just Movies, and we will see you very, very soon. Take care, guys.